April has been a ride. This is my bookish update for the month of April, where I basically just go over the books I read, the books I bought, the books I planned to read but didn't read, and the books I was trying to read and did not finish. So 4 sections of books. But yeah, April was a ride because at the beginning of the month I was actually going through a reading slump that probably started sometime around February. I think I only got through reading about 2 books in February. It lasted through March. I was doing a little bit better, but I am doing much better now. I actually read quite a bit this month. Yeah, I read quite a bit this month, and I think the reason I was able to get over it was because I read a lot of shoujo manga at the beginning of the month, and I'm still reading a lot of shoujo manga. I plan to keep reading a lot of shoujo manga because one thing I noticed was they make me really happy. I read so much shoujo manga because I just realized that Kindle Unlimited has manga. I don't know where I've been, what corner of the world I've been stuck in, because I've had a Kindle Unlimited membership for years now, and it never occurred to me to actually check their catalog for what kind of manga they have. Somehow that I don't remember, I ran into manga on Kindle Unlimited earlier in the month, and I read so much of it. So I have my books here that I read and bought this month, as well as my iPad for the ebooks that I read this month. I am going to start with the books that I read this month, starting with the manga that I read on Kindle Unlimited. So the very first one I read was a reread called Atsumori-kun's Bride to Be. Like I said, this one is a reread. It's a really cute story. I reread it because I was super excited to see it on Kindle Unlimited. But this is a story about a country girl who is in a little bit of a betrothal situation where her dad wants her to marry his best friend that just passed away's son, because that best friend's final wish before he died was for her dad to take care of his son. And I guess to her dad, that just meant that he had to take him into his family by having him marry his daughter. I hope you were able to follow the storyline from all the him and he. But yeah, that's the basis of the story. But she tries to escape that situation by moving to the city to go to high school, where she stays with her grandfather for a while. And while she's there, she meets another guy and falls in love with him. It's a completed story, really short and cute. It's only 6 volumes, and 3 of them are available on Kindle Unlimited for anyone who's interested in reading a really quick, short, interesting, cute, completed shoujo manga. So that was the first one I read. The second one I read was A Kiss for Real. This one was one I'd never read before. It's also completed, and it was actually one of my favorites of the shoujo manga that I read this month. So A Kiss for Real is about a high school girl called Chitose who lives her life wearing a mask in order to be liked by everyone. So she's a little bit of a people pleaser, and she just got used to that. And one day a boy named Itsuki saves her from a pervert, and unable to forget him, she follows him to an art prep school. There, Chitose was led around by Itsuki, but he sees through her fake facade. This is a sweet but sadistic love story between a mask-wearing girl and her free-spirited boy. So I think what I really liked most about this story was the part that we were going to an art prep school. That's always something I would have loved to do but never got a chance to. And I think by reading this story, I was just living vicariously through them. The characters also get a lot of character development. The girl learns to stop wearing a mask where she feels like everybody has to love her. And the boy was a little bit stoic in the beginning of the story, so he was kind of a woman hater, but he eventually got over that and was able to express his feelings much better. Yeah, there was a lot of growth in the story, and I like that it had the additional depth of them being in art prep school. I don't remember how many volumes are in the entire series, but 7 of them are available on Kindle Unlimited, and it's a completed story, so you can buy the rest of the manga. The next one I read was My Love with Yamada-kun at level 999. This one is not available on Kindle Unlimited. I binged it like literally 3 days ago because the anime is currently airing on Crunchyroll, and there were a lot of manga readers in the comment section talking about how good it was, so I decided to read it. I binged it overnight, got like 3 hours of sleep even though I had to go to work the next day. It was terrible, but I enjoyed it. I regret nothing. It was a really good story. It's super cute. So My Lovely Yamada-kun at level 999 is about a girl who starts playing games or starts gaming because of her boyfriend, but her boyfriend actually meets another girl in the game and dumps her. However, she already met like a couple people within the game that they created their own guild. They meet in real life and they just create this amazing community of people who love and enjoy the same thing. And I think that was like my favorite part of the story, right? That's what I'm trying to do here on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to build a community of people who love and enjoy the same things that I enjoy that might seem very weird to people, especially like my close friends and family. And I really enjoyed that portion of the story. It's not a completed story, but at the point it's at right now, I will easily give it 5 stars. It's very wholesome, and I had the hugest smile on my face the entire time I was reading it. I loved it very much. The last shoujo manga that I read this month is one that's also available on Kindle Unlimited. It's called My Boyfriend in Orange. I don't really have much to say about this one except I think it's a stupid story and I don't really understand why I'm still reading it. There are 7 volumes available on Kindle Unlimited. That's probably why I read it, because it was just free. I didn't have to buy it or anything. But even after I read those 7 volumes that were available on Kindle Unlimited, I still kept reading the story. It's not a completed story. I still think it's stupid. And I still can't understand why I'm reading it, but I am. So yeah, I got all caught up on the story. I can't remember how many volumes there are. I will give this book or this manga 2 stars. That's being very, very generous. I just wasn't into it. I don't know. It wasn't bad enough for me to stop reading it. I don't think curiosity is exactly what kept me reading it either. I think it was just I felt I'd invested a lot in the story and I really wanted to see how it was going to end. So yeah, that was it for the manga that I read on Kindle Unlimited. As for books, I listened to the audiobook Dirty Letters by V. Keeland and Penelope Ward. This one was an audiobook that I listened to because I had to go on a road trip 2 weeks ago, and I like to have something to listen to when I'm going on a road trip because I loathe driving, and listening to an audiobook just makes it go by faster and easier. So I listened to this. Dirty Letters is a story about 2 pen pals who met when they were really, really young. A British boy and an American girl who lost touch somewhere between their relationship of sending letters to each other because the girl goes through a pretty traumatic incident when she was in high school that has made her a recluse and she is now agoraphobic. They end up reconnecting with each other 6 years later, and somehow they were able to rekindle their childhood connection. Only now that they're adults, the connection has grown to a spark. Their letters quickly went from childish to fun and flirty, and sometimes really, really dirty. So they decide to take their relationship to the next level and see each other in person, but the guy is against it for some reason. And yeah, the story just talks about them reconnecting with each other, why he's holding back from meeting her in person, and her story of trying to heal from that traumatic incident that made her a recluse. I will give this one a 3.5. It wasn't a bad story, but it wasn't the best one that I've ever read either. It wasn't on my TBR or anything. The only reason I listened to it was because it was available for free on Kindle Unlimited, and I just felt like I had to finish it. It wasn't bad enough that I wanted to stop reading it or anything. That was the next book that I listened to on Kindle Unlimited. The next 2 were anticipated releases in April from some of my favorite gay romance authors. The first one was False Start. Both books are sports romance books. False Start is by Riley Hart and Neve Wilder. It's the second book in a series of 2. I have to look for the book online to kind of give you a blurb, because even though I can remember, I suck at summarizing stories. It's about a problem child and someone who has lost his football career based on an injury. When they were in high school, they used to be lovers, but because things were very like hush hush back then, and it was basically a career suicide for them to be openly be with each other. This is gay romance, like I mentioned. They ended up breaking up with each other, and now that one of them no longer has his career and the other one is pretty much openly gay, they enter into a fake dating relationship, and that's what the story is about. I really enjoyed it. I loved the first one, so it only made sense for me to read the second book in the series. I would give this one 4 stars. These authors are automatic reads for me, so it was a no-brainer for me to read it. The next one was Foolish Fuckboy by Saxon James and Eden Finley. Again, 2 authors that are an automatic read for me. Foolish Fuckboy is book 4 in a series called Fuckboys, the Fuckboy series. This one is hockey romance. This one is a hockey romance. It's about a hockey player who just recently went through a divorce from his high school sweetheart. He always knew he was bisexual, but he never really explored that part of him because he had always been with his high school sweetheart until they just recently got divorced. So he came out as bisexual, and he meets this firefighter one night of having crazy fun with all of his hockey buddies, and they kind of really hit it off. And the story is about the 2 of them. I will give this one a 3.5. It wasn't really my favorite of the series so far, but I already knew this character from all the other stories in the series, and I was really curious to see how his story ended. So I read it. It wasn't a bad story, but I don't think it kept me as engaged as the other ones did. So 3.5 stars. The last book that I'm reading on Kindle Unlimited, keyword being I am reading, I haven't finished reading it, is ChatGPT Millionaire. This is non-fiction. It's going to be like a helpful book. ChatGPT is that AI tool that's like super popular right now. And this was offered on Kindle Unlimited. It's like a really short book. I'm like, sure, why the hell not? I'm gonna read that. And it was something I planned to read in like one sitting. I started reading it and I'm like, oh shoot, this has like lots of good stuff that I can actually learn from. So I was going to like sit down and take notes of it, but I got lazy during that reading session. I'm like, yeah, I'll just do it later, and then I never went back to it. So I'm going to try to get through it sometime between now and the end of the month, which is like a day and a half. We'll see how that goes, and hopefully by the time I'm done editing this video, I have an update on that. The other books that I read this month are books that I own, which are right here. The first one was this shoujo manga. I'm really in my shoujo manga era, like seriously, called Ima Koi. I read volume 1 of this. I have volumes 1 and 2. This is a new story for me. It's about a girl who is usually too shy to confess her feelings, and she blurts out how she feels the next time she gets a crush to her impossibly handsome classmate Yagyu, and to her surprise, he agrees to date her. Now that she's in a relationship, what next? So this is a story about the two's relationship. It's a super cute story. I have the second volume. I'm going to try and read it next month and decide if I'm getting more volumes of the manga. That was a nice story. I'll give it a 3.5 so far. I don't know enough about it, but like I'm not going to stop reading it. It's cute. I don't think there's much to it. Then I read My Happy Marriage. This one is a reread. I actually have a problem. I keep rereading stuff I've read before, but I do have a reason for rereading this. I'm rereading this because it's getting animated sometime this year. This is a Cinderella trope kind of story. The main female character lost her mom when she was younger. Her dad remarries, so her dad, her stepmom, and her sister, they're like the worst people ever. She's considered worthless for having failed to inherit superhuman powers. This has like a paranormal twist to it, and it's set in the Taisho era in Japan. She lives her days unwanted and unloved. Her mother, a stepmother, and her very own father have little time or affection for her, and she suffers through being treated like a servant by her half sister, because her half sister has the supernatural powers that have been inherited in their family. Ultimately, seen as nothing more than a nuisance and a drain on the family wealth, she is packed off to the Kudo house as a bridal candidate for its heir, Kyoka Kudo. So the heir of the Kudo clan, Kyoka Kudo, that she's meant to marry is allegedly super cold and cruel, which is why they sent her to marry him, because to them she's getting punished. But as you read the story, you realize that not everything is as it seems. And I really like this story. It's not completed, but I like the paranormal twist to it, and I like traditional sets, historical romance. I just really love Japanese culture. So this is a really cute story. Well, it's not cute, it's actually pretty fucking terrible, but it's a nice story. I like it. I'll give this 4 stars. The next 2 manga that I read were volumes 8 and 9 of Jujutsu Kaisen. I really loved this anime when it came out 2 years ago, and I'm trying to catch up on reading the manga for the next arc before it gets released in July. So I read these 2 volumes. I'm going to try to get through the next 6 that I have in May. Jujutsu Kaisen is about a world where there are cursed spirits, so this one is kind of paranormal, supernatural as well. And there's a demon called Roman Sukuna whose body has been lost and scattered about. He's like a super dangerous demon, and should any other demon consume his body parts, they could gain enough power to destroy the world. But there are these people called Jujutsu sorcerers who exist to protect other people, regular people, from these supernatural demonic beings, and that's pretty much what the story is about. I really like that one. I'll give it a solid 4.5 stars because the story is incomplete. I can't give it a 5-star yet. What if I decide to pull a Game of Thrones and give it a shitty ass ending? So yeah, I'm just gonna give it 4.5 stars. I really like what the story is like so far. Then I read In the Clear Moonlit Dusk. This one is a reread. I have absolutely no reason for reading it except that I just wanted to. And this is so pretty. When I first read it, I read this online as an ebook, but I bought the first 2 volumes in Barnes & Noble last month, and I just really love the art style. This one is about a heroine who is more like a hero. In fact, she's called a prince in this story. She has given up on being seen as anything but a prince or like a kind of boyish girl until she bumps into her senior, the school's other prince, and gets a taste of what it feels like to be seen for her true self, which is a girl. So the story of the 2 high school princes starts here. I just think they're both so attractive and really nice to look at, so I really enjoyed this story. I'll give it 4 stars. It's an incomplete one as well, so I can't really judge on how it's going to be completed. I read Game Between the Suits. Only 1 volume of this. I picked this up at Barnes & Noble earlier this month just because of the cover. It's a bit of a spicy story, as you can see. It's about the female main character who is a workaholic, and she gets into a friends with benefit relationship with the main male character, who is her younger co-worker. There really isn't much of a plot to this manga. I'm only reading it because I'm curious to see who is going to fall for who first, because come on, we all know that's where this story is going. But yeah, I'll give it a 3.5. It's not a bad story, but I don't think there's much of a plot to it. It's just meh, it's okay. The last manga that I read this month was volume 1 of Something's Wrong with Us. This one is super intriguing. It's about Nao, who follows in her mother's footsteps to become a traditional Japanese sweets maker, and at 21, her skills are unparalleled, landing her a spot at a world-class confectionery company. However, when she meets the young, handsome heir to the company, she recognizes Tsubaki, her first friend and the same boy who framed her mother a murder over a decade ago. As the only witness to the crime, Nawa seizes her chance to get close to him, but instead of finding answers, she falls deeper for Tsubaki's allure. It's described as a spine-chilling, steamy romance. So I read the first volume and I am super intrigued. I really want to know what was up with that murder and why he framed her mother for it. So I will give this a 4 because, yeah, it delivered. I really like the story so far. I'm going to buy some more of this and catch up on reading it. The next book, or the last book that I read this month, is 1,000 Autumns by Monshishi. This is a Dame novel, Chinese boys love novel, that I got my hands on at the beginning of the month. This just got published in English recently. I loved it. I finished reading it earlier this morning. I will give this a solid 4.5 stars. I can't give it a 5 completely because this is 1 volume out of 3. The other 2 will be released later this year. I think 1 in July and 1 in October. But I really enjoyed reading it. There wasn't like any stilts in the story. I was able to stay engaged throughout reading it. It is about Yan Wuxi, a leader of the demonic Huan Yue sect, a master cultivator, a brilliant strategist, and an incurable cynic. In his philosophy, every human heart is ruled by cruelty and selfishness. Anyone who believes otherwise is either a liar or a fool. Enter the humble Shen Xiao, leader of the Daoist sect at Shuandu Mountain. He is both gracious and charitable, and exactly the type of do-gooder that Yan Wuxi despises. When Shen Xiao suffers a shocking loss in a duel and is left for dead, Yan Wuxi happens upon him and concocts a plan to teach him about the wretchedness of humanity. He would take Shen Xiao under his wings, test the limit of his faith, and lure him into demonic cultivation. After all, it's easy to remain righteous atop a mountain peak that touches the heavens, but 1,000 autumns toiling on the blood-soaked earth will break any man. And I get it, like, I can be a little bit cynical too, but this guy takes it to really asshole-ish levels. He's a lovable asshole and just a bastard, honestly. Like, he's a terrible person, but you still love him. Like, yeah, I really enjoyed reading this, and I'm happy that I was able to get through it. 4.5 stars for you. The last book that I have here is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I did not read this book, but I was meant to read it. I was supposed to read this book since February. At the beginning of the year, I set a goal to read at least 1 nonfiction book every month, and this was meant to be my nonfiction for February since it was Black History Month. But I never opened it, and I still haven't opened it. So what I plan to do is make it the first book that I read in May. I don't want to carry this over into the second half of 2023, so hopefully I'm able to do that. For the books that I bought, these 3 books are books that I bought this month. 1,000 Autumns, Something's Wrong with Us Volume 1, and Game Between the Suits Volume 1. I bought 5 other books. There's one that's not here. Just a second, I'm gonna go grab it and come right back. Okay. I bought 4 books from Barnes & Noble, 2 of them from the buy one get one 50% off sale. The first one was A Man Called Uva by Frederick Backman. This one I bought because I've read 2 books by Frederick Backman and I just think he's a really amazing author, so I bought this because I was familiar with the author. It's about Uva, the man Uva, who is a really grumpy man and just thinks everyone around him is an idiot, but he happens to grow a community and friendship with his new neighbors who just moved in. Yeah, this has a lot of good reviews, and I believe there's actually a movie about it called A Man Called Oto. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah, I bought this one because I'm familiar with the author. The next book I bought from the buy one get one 50% off pile is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This one I bought because it made it to my TBR from seeing it a lot on Bookstagram. This is about Alicia Bernstein, who seems perfect until the night when her husband Gabriel returns home late from work, and Alicia shoots him 5 times in the face and then never speaks another word. So she never speaks another word and nobody knows what really happened with her shooting her husband 5 times. So this is a story about that. It's meant to be a thriller. I will read this someday. The next 2 books I got are also from Bookstagram. These are meant to be like super sad stories. If he had been with me, this one has been going around a lot recently. It has mixed reviews. A lot of people like it, but then the people who don't like it really do not like it. But this set me back only about $11, so I thought it was worth getting it to at least make my own, like form my own idea of how I feel about it and rate it as a book. So I'm going to try to read this next month and give you a rating at the end of next month for it. The other book I got that's a sad book is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. This is meant to be a really sad story as well. I don't really know what it's about, but I'll read the first couple lines of the summary in the back. The unforgettable, heartbreaking story of the unlikely friendship between a wealthy boy and the son of his father's servant, caught in the tragic swoop of history. It's set in Afghanistan at a tense and crucial moment of change and destruction. A powerful story of friendship, about the power of reading, the price of betrayal, and the possibility of redemption. And an exploration of the power of fathers over sons, their love, their sacrifices, and their lies. So this one, everywhere that I've seen it, it has really good reviews. So I'm pretty optimistic about the fact that it's going to be a good read whenever I do get to read in it. The very last book that I bought was another Danmei series that just recently got published in English, like literally this week, and I just bought it. It arrived yesterday. The name is Remnants of Filth by Robao Butiro. This is the same author that wrote The Husky and His White Cat. I own the first volume of The Husky and His White Cat, and I actually plan to read that next month. It's about noble-born Moshi. His names are hard to pronounce. He's the foremost general of Shonghua, known for his ruthless temper and ascetic air. His comrade, the low-born Gumang, was Mushi's brother-in-arms, best friends, and secretly his lover until the day Gumang turned traitor and joined the ranks of their nation's greatest enemy. Now Gumang has been returned to the empire, a ruined man, a shadow of the military genius he once was. The public clamors for his death, and no one yearns for vengeance more than Mushi, or so he thought. For face one more with his bitterest enemy, Moshi is left with more questions than answers. Why did the man he loved betray him? And what secrets hide behind Gumang's tortured eyes? Yeah, that is the very last book that I bought this month. And I bought 8 books, which is not a lot. I was really hoping to buy a lot more. I think the mistake that I made this month is I waited till the end of the month to buy the books that I wanted to buy, but I should know better. You give up food and you buy books. Duh, that's the way it works. Until next month, and whenever you find yourself watching this, make it a great day. See you in my next bookish update.